9:32 East Coast time, and you're watching our bumper, and we are recording this in case I want to play it back later. You can play it back on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, where we stream this live, and our guest is standing by in the green room, and our chat room is buzzing, waiting to hear what manner of foolishness is going to happen. Let's start a countdown to Studio 33 Alpha, starting now. Okay, welcome back to pjnet.tv. If you weren't here for the previous segment, Jack Watts was our guest right there on the big screen. He is also one of our speakers at the event that we are holding near Tallahassee, Florida, January the 15th, and we look forward to that. Well, it's Wednesday night, and you know what happens on Wednesday night. Michelle Medlock Adams comes our way, except when she has something else to do, which I don't know what it is she's doing tonight, but I know that she has tapped one of her many associates and friends who I have reported to be a first-time guest, but I now stand corrected. Deanna McMillen, did I do it right?
Yes.
Okay. Has actually appeared on our program before. You were in a hurry. You were just coming back. See, I don't remember any of this because there's two things about getting old, and one of them is your memory begins to fail. But anyway, how much notice did you get from Michelle that you would be here at this time tonight?
It was about 5:30. I was driving here from Indiana. I'm actually in Florida right now. To do a photo shoot for a wedding. And so I was driving and she sent me a text, and so I pulled over in Monticello, Florida, of all places.
I've heard of the place, yeah.
And read that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I probably could do that. And so I told her to let me find out, let me get settled, and then I'll let you know. And so I'm settled in, and here I am.
So you're down by the beach, though, right now?
Yes. In Panacea.
Welcome to Florida. Welcome. We're so glad. Now, can I ask a question? I guess maybe you don't think it's out of the ordinary, but it seems to me that if I wanted to hire a photographer for something happening in this area, Florida, I would probably hire someone from around here.
Well, yes.
But you drove from Indiana to Florida to do a wedding shoot.
Yes.
Why? I mean, I know you're doing it for the money, but why did they pick you?
This is the second one. The first time, I have a group of friends that live down here actually, and one of whom we've been friends for probably 17, 18 years now. And she had asked me because I had told her I was interested in starting professional photography, and she had asked me if I would be interested in doing this photos for her friend's wedding that was upcoming. And then I said, I don't know, let me think about it. And then I said, well, and I kind of hesitated a little bit because it is down here in Florida. But she said, you're so good, because I had taken her wedding photos, and mine turned out better than the professionals. And so she wanted me to do this. And so I said, okay, let me think about it. Well, then their photographer got COVID. And on short notice, it's really hard to find a photographer for weddings that is, anybody has any idea about. So my friend called me and she said, hey, the photographer got COVID. And the last time I had 3 days notice. So I came down, or 4 days notice. And I came down and photographed their wedding. And then the people liked the pictures so much that there's another wedding coming up, which is this one. And they told them about me. And so then after showing them the pictures, they asked me if I'd come and photograph this wedding too. And then I have to be back up the first weekend of October. I have to be back up in Indiana because I have another wedding to photograph.
Now, Deanna, you're not going to believe that in the Eagle's Nest here,
Yes.
we have in our possession a Nikon D950 with a 50 millimeter 1.4 lens.
Oh, see, I love Nikon. That's my camera of choice.
Well, you need
But
to.
I have an 18 to 400 millimeter lens so that I don't have to change lenses in between.
Well, the reason we got this particular, it's fast, is we shoot
Yes.
in sometimes, and we got it specifically because so many church sanctuaries are so poorly lit, and now they're trying to subdue a lot of the lighting, and
Yes.
you got to kind of work with the light you have, so you need a fast lens,
Lens.
and so that's why we got that. But you're welcome to take a look at it if you want to make an offer.
would-
We'll
I may have to look at that while I'm up here because that would be good. I'm looking at getting another camera. So
yeah.
but anyway, when Michelle asked me to talk, I don't know what you typically would be talking about, other than I know that Michelle is an author, and I'm not an author. However, my life is story after story after story, and most of it, especially over the past 25 years, has been about serving God. And my biggest thing that I think, if I was going to share something tonight that might help your viewers get a glimpse at who I am, more than the photography, which I love, is serving God. And he has me on a mission right now. And I'd say to anybody who's out there, if God calls you to do something, he's going to equip you, whether you think you're equipped or not. He's going to equip you to do it. And he's going to, he gives us each gifts. And those gifts are, I believe, there to share with others. And it's basically like when you share your gifts and talents with other people, doing things, serving, and sharing with other people, you are basically letting God give them yet another gift. So for me, the photography, when I take people's pictures, I like to connect to them so that I can bring out their personality in the picture. It's not about just taking a shot. It's about showing who they are, communicating to the viewer who they are, and catching the extra special things about the moment, any kind of, outside features. And so the project that God has me on is a coffee shop. It's a mission. And it's something that I had told you and your viewers that I would talk to you about again. And so before I run, because I have a tendency to talk. So before I run on too much.
That's good, because it's hard to interview. It's hard to have somebody on the program that doesn't talk. It really is.
Good. So, but my thing is, before I run on too many different things, the coffee shop, I would like to know if there's anybody else out there that God has given this kind of a plan to, this kind of a vision. Because what he had me on is making this place where people can connect via divine appointments. It's a place for really the people who have been hurt by church. There are a lot of people out there who have been hurt by church. And I don't say this in any way, shape, or form to shame churches or to say anything negative, because I know that the battle's real, the struggle's real, and it's a journey. But we, the church, need to come together, not as judges, but as the love of the Lord. And that's so many places that's not happening right now. And so what God's basically been telling me is create a place where people can come together and say, you're in there having a cup of coffee and maybe a piece of pie. And here comes Johnny, and he's 15, and he's just gotten a girl pregnant. And he doesn't want to go home. So he's hanging out in the coffee shop so he doesn't have to go home, because he knows that if he goes home and tells his parents, it's on. And you're sitting there and he's thinking it's the end of the world, maybe even thinking about ending it. And you're sitting there having a cup of coffee, and by divine appointment, he ends up sitting right there near you, and God creates a way for conversation to open up, and you give him wisdom from where you are. Or let's reverse it. Let's say you're feeling really old, and he's comes in and he's, woo, and you're going, man, I remember when I was that age. But he brings about something. He brings exactly what God wanted him to bring in. It's your own personal cup of coffee is what it is, or tea, or, whatever it is that you like, basically. But it's in the words that you needed to hear for that day. It's the message that you needed to hear. And the whole mission is about healing people. And it was funny because when we hired the architect to look at the building, because at first, I should say this, I prayed and prayed and prayed over where, and I said, I know I'm your yes man, God, but not this time. Thank you. Line's busy. Please call again. Not me. And that didn't work. God kind of has a way of sitting back and going, okay, I'll wait on you. Let me know when you're ready. And I didn't want to do it. Do you ever not want to do it? When God gives you something? Really?
Well, I have learned the hard way that it's when you don't want to do it that when you are able to overcome that. And I'd like to report to you that I always do, but that would not be truthful. But I can be truthful and share this. When I do overcome that, it's a good thing that I did, because
Yes.
it is way more meaningful. I would have really missed an opportunity. Sunday mornings, those bed sheets can feel pretty darn comfy in the morning. Sunday.
Yes.
Really hard to, and the dog's laying there with his head on your shoulder, and
Yeah.
And
you're just comfy. You don't want to get out of bed and go to church.
No, don't want to.
I'll say it.
You said something earlier that got me thinking, because it's funny. I had a conversation, rather long one. In fact, I had to leave my car in park in my driveway so I wouldn't lose the connection over the Bluetooth. And
Mm-hmm.
we were on the subject you're on.
Really?
And I, like you, I don't want to be overly critical, but I would be wrong to not make some candid observations about the way we're going about, quote, doing church.
Yes.
And the conversation went this. Let me get your reaction to this. The culture out there thinks that we are a bunch of haters, that we don't have any fun, we're miserable, and we're self-righteous.
Mm-hmm.
And to that, I would say, you know what? You got a point there. What if we, as the church, not any particular church, but we, as the church, went on a mission to rebrand ourselves as the kind of person Jesus actually was?
That is exactly. I mean, what is your life? What is your life if not a chance to bring Jesus into the world? He is in us. He says from his word, if I am in you, well, then you are in me. And you are in the Father. I mean, yes, totally paraphrasing. But in saying that, and he said, go into all the world. But he didn't just say, thump him over, bless you. He didn't just say, thump him over the head with the Bible or quote verses. He wants us to be his love to this world. And so when he said to me with the mission of doing this coffee shop, and I said, I know I'm your yes man, God. I mean, I've done a lot of things that, a lot of people are like, whoa. But if God says to do it, like you said, I've learned that it's better for me and for other people if I do it. But even if it didn't have anything to do with anybody else, it's better for me and my connection and my relationship with God if I do what he asked me to do. And of course, there's ways to clarify that. You check it with the word, and if it doesn't come into alignment with the word, it's probably not God. Better check again and make sure before you go doing something. But this I knew was from him, and I gave him all the reasons why I didn't want to do it. I live in a small community. I have no desire to open any kind of a restaurant. I don't even drink coffee at the time. So I went through all these things, and he just waited patiently, because that is who he is. Grace and mercy. And his patience is amazing. And if we would just stop and take the time to do these things that are actually pretty simple for the most part. My thing is, obedience equals wisdom equals more obedience equals more wisdom, an infinite circle of growth in your relationship with God. So if we take the time to do what he asks us to do, we grow in our relationship with him. But how many people does that touch that we may not even know? There are people watching you that you don't even realize are watching you, not just like on you in particular have this show, but like as you go through your daily things, if somebody comes up to you and steps up and wants to argue, any kind of thing, how you conduct yourself, they see whether Christ is in you or the world. Be ye of the world, or in the world, but not of it. And so with the coffee shop, it's about being a part of healing. And so people will come to a coffee shop that won't go into a church, right, because the second you start saying something about God or Jesus or Satan, they shut down.
Well, it's what I call a non-threatening environment.
Yes, exactly.
They've learned our tricks. We can't trick them into coming to church by having a show. It's a bad idea to start with. But anyway, let me go back to that conversation I had this afternoon, because I'd like to get your reaction.
Yes.
Do you remember Pablo Escobar, the Colombian?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. Yes.
Do you know how wildly popular he was in Colombia?
No.
I
understand he's pretty popular, but
that surprises you, see? Okay, because we know him as the criminal drug lord, which he was.
Mm-hmm.
But what did he do with all that money? You could only spend so much. What did he do with those millions and millions and millions of dollars? He
probably gave to the community.
He built housing for the poor.
Mm-hmm.
He opened up schools.
Wise man.
Now I'm not trying to legitimize this snake, okay? But he understood something that apparently we, as organized religion, don't. Is you got to win the hearts and minds of the people that you work with. I mean, now here's what we've done. Some of that work is kind of dirty, we've kind of sanitized it. So what we do now is we say, oh yes, I do good in the community because when the offering plate comes by, I put a check in there and my church does things. Well, what things does your church do? Well, we send it to the cooperative, over headquarters, and they do great things with it. Well, what do they do with it? Well, they send it to, you're throwing money into this black hole. It's like, well, here, when you see somebody that needs to have, or here's one, get a pair of those jumper cables are not in vogue anymore. Now they make these little battery thingies.
I have one, a battery pack, yes.
Yeah, they're really cool. Take one, and when you see somebody with their hood up, say, hey, you need a jump? I had this happen. The true story.
That is me.
True story. My wife had a flat tire Now we have that emergency road service, and I'll be darned, I could have changed a tire, but since I'm paying State Farm, I figure I'd let them do it.
That's yes.
So I'm on my way up there to where she's at, just so I can be with her. And she told me that two people before I got there, this was near Thomasville, Georgia, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Two people stopped. One of them was a senior lady, and she said, "I don't know a thing about changing a tire, but if you'd like, I'll sit here with you until help arrives."
That's
and
nice.
then while I was there with her, two guys, stopped and said, "Hey, we'll be glad to help you, change a tire if you need some help."
That's what we need to be. If the world can do that, why couldn't we do and some
Right.
as Christians?
Okay. I've already told you about Pablo Escobar. Let me tell you another group that is heavily invested in charitable functions serving the community, and it's going to shock the pants off. You're not going to believe me, but Google it. Okay. Hell's Angels.
Yes.
Believe it or not, Hell's Angels. They help those women who are victimized.
Yes, I do know about that.
They protect people. Now, I'm not trying to legitimize, but can't we see? Can't we learn? Where did we fall? Where did we get off the path? What did Jesus do? He went and met needs. He would identify a need, and he would meet that physical need, that personal need.
That's what the church was originally established for,
Right.
in communities. That was their first way of reaching out to people,
Right.
was to do stuff within the community.
Within the community. Now we're in a debate politically with the other side that wants to tax, and then give money to the people that need it. Okay.
Yes.
Well, a couple of comments there. First of all, they're very benevolent with other people's money. Okay, but number two, that's not the model. I got a better idea. Let me keep my money and let me go spend it helping other people.
And help them.
And,
yes.
But they think that people are bad and won't do that. But so when you are talking about, let me try to tie it back to your ministry as a coffee place. Okay, here's a place where people's emotional needs can get met. Now, that emotional need might be so minuscule is that, well, I'm just bored.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, there's a lot of...
It could be an elderly person who comes from the nursing home.
Okay, think about it. How many, forget, not the nursing home, how many people, elderly, I've watched
Sitting
this
at
happen.
home.
They're sitting at home doing what? What are they doing? They're watching television.
Television.
And folks,
Yes.
if you want to poison your mind,
Oh my
just-
goodness.
yeah, watch a few episodes of Jerry Springer. Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Or
yes.
Judge Judy, or and I'm sure they're somewhat entertaining, but I watched this happen in my grandmother's life, and I'm seeing it happen over and over and over. What if somebody said, "Here, I'll pick you up. Let's go down to the coffee shop and just hang out."
That's what it is. It's to create a place, and not just that, but job connections. Let's say that, here comes little, and these names, I'm throwing out names. I apologize if this offends anybody. But the reality is there are a lot of drug problems. It doesn't matter where you go. It seems like there are meth and heroin problems everywhere right now, sadly, even in the smallest communities. And in this little rural community that we live in, when I learned this when I was doing youth group at another small church within our community several years ago, these kids, the battle is real. They're seeing these things. Some of them, their parents, it's at their house, and they need to be equipped with something that's going to be strong enough to help them battle. And if we don't give them that relationship and that strength and that encouragement, How are we going to get that? How do we expect to show them who Jesus really is and point them towards him if we can't be his love
I'll give
and
you
his
that.
understanding and his patience and his peace? You know what I mean? So here comes this little Ricky or Susie, and she's decided to quit school because everybody in her family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, mom, dad, they've always sold drugs. This is just what they do. And so she's going to go sell drugs because she's not smart enough. But then, here I am and I see her doodling, and I love art. And I'm like, oh, by divine appointment, again, in the coffee shop, we run into each other. And it seems almost like, yeah, really, like that's going to happen. But literally, as I have been working on this building, it needs remodeled. I mean, it is horrible. It's so bad that when we found the building, I said, I don't want it. And so did the other young lady that God had this on. And he told her, she said, it's a mess. She said, I told God it's a mess. And I said, well, and she said, and you know what he said to me? He said, so are you. And look what I was able to do with you. But as I've gone through this remodeling process, God is showing me that a lot like this building, there are missing bricks, and we're going to have to put in, that's why we hired an architect and an engineer, but we're going to have to do all these different things. But even with missing bricks, broken bricks, different things here and there, God showed me it's a lot like the people. Some come and go, some fall out, some fall away. But as long as the foundation is on him, it will stand. And what people, secondarily, what people turn away because, a lot of people wouldn't even mess with this building because, it's a lost cause. They do that to people. Imagine, a building you can see that's understandable why somebody would want to turn away. But imagine being the person who was turned away because they're worthless, deemed worthless. And then to find out that the person who deemed them worthless was a Christian. But that happens every day, multiple times a day. Oh, that's a druggie. Walk to the other side of the street. No, they're not. Just understand they are struggling too. The battle is real. And if they don't see the light in you, where are they going to see it? If you're the Christian, you should be the light. I should be the light. We should all be the light because the world has plenty of darkness.
One of the things I love about what I do is I get to share. And the things you're saying have made me think. And I'm thinking back to some lectures I've given to my small group Bible study class. When you get a visitor in church, we have a tendency to latch on to them. Okay. So I try to get people to step back and say, all right, first of all, I think the reason we latch on to them is we see what they can do for us. I said, step back. Why are they visiting the church? It's not because they were just wandering around and found themselves at church. No, they probably have some unmet need, is my guess. I think that's a good place to start. Now, if you walk up to a stranger in church and say, "Hi, I'm Coach Prasic. What is the unmet need? What's hurting in your life?" Well, people aren't very likely to just come out and say, "Well, I'm going through a divorce, or I'm an alcoholic, or relationship with my son or daughters." Not the typical opening line of conversation. But I said, whatever the reason, they are looking for something, and I know what it is. They're not looking for an envelope to put your offering in. They're not looking for a quarterly to take home and presumably read and study the Bible. They're not looking for a free Bible. I actually know what they're looking for. They're looking for love.
Yes.
And I'm going to say this with a smile. It's about the last thing they're going to get. Now, but you know what? They are going to continue their search, and they're going to find it. Where
Somewhere.
they're going to go find it. They'll find it at the country club. They'll find it at the bar.
And it's always a misrepresentation. It's
Right.
really not love at
It's
all.
not.
It's the
Yeah.
world.
It's the only
It's
love the
the
world
enemy.
yeah. So I kind of see what you're doing here as a way that people can come and meet that need. You know, whatever it may be. It may only be I'm lonesome, or it may be
Yes.
I'm bored. It may
I'm not
be I've just had an argument with my spouse. Um,
exactly.
or it may be drug addiction. It may be an unplanned, unwed pregnancy. It may be financial problems. Who knows? We don't know, but
Exactly.
we don't know what the problem is, but we do know who has the solution. And
Yes.
it
And
what
that's the key.
yeah, and I think that there is a gap that you're trying to stand in. Now the truth is the gap shouldn't be there.
No.
Okay?
But it is. And once it's there, there has to be a rectification.
Yeah. So
You know, so here's what happened. I'll share this with you and you tell me what you think. So I was standing there and, I understand that for some people it's a little hard and you got to kind of check, like, did she just say God said? Well, the Bible is full of God said. And I've had to learn the hard way, I'm a little hard headed, that God is talking to me. He's talking to all of us. We just have to choose whether or not we're going to listen. And he talks different ways to different people. Each one of us, he knows exactly how to communicate with us. But we have to listen. We have to want to listen, and we have to listen. So I ask him as I'm trying to figure out how to explain this whole plan to the architect, because I don't know if he's a Christian or not. And I'm like, God, what am I going to say? How do I explain what the mission is? And he said, tell him they're going to come slinking in the back door thinking that's all they're worth. And after being fed the bread of life and given to drink from the fount of living water, they will leave a light shining out into the streets, a river of gold, revival, starting from the center of your town, in the center of your county, spreading out through the streets. Revival. I'm going to tell you, that's humbling to sit back and really, for me, process that. What would your reaction be if that was the message God gave you? You were supposed to tell somebody else that.
well, essentially, that is the message. When you think about it, we're commanded to make disciples, and that's a process that has to have a beginning.
Yes.
Well, where does it begin? Does it
Right.
begin in the pew of a church? I mean, we kind of act like that's the way it is, right?
Well,
You
it
know, we,
should.
well, but we invite people. Here's how messed up we are. We find somebody that's got a problem, and we invite them to church to sit in a pew and let our pastor. He's got a PhD in divinity, and he's an
Uh-huh.
expert on these matters. He'll tell you what to do.
Yes.
Why don't we just pray with them?
Exactly. Right then and there. And that's the way I was brought up. Is
Why
if
don't we
somebody
just meet the
asks for
need
prayer,
if we
don't,
can?
oh,
What
later.
Why do we keep referring them to the professionals down at church that know everything? Because well, I'll tell you why. Because we pay them a lot of money, and since we pay them a lot of money, we figure I'm paying him. I don't have to do that. I'm paying him to do that. Just
We're
like
here to be the hands
for
and
the
feet of
very
Christ.
right for the very reason I didn't want to change the tire on my wife's automobile that was flat. I'm
You're
paying
paying
somebody else. I'm paying somebody else to do that.
Yes.
I will go up there and be with her, but yeah, I think I'll just sit here and wait on the tow truck, rather than get
Well,
all hot and sweaty.
here's where it got real. Okay, so I went ahead and told that gentleman exactly what God told me to tell him. And he stood there. I'm like, are you sure, God? Because I don't, he just do it, Dee. Okay, here we go. And I did. And he stood there and his mouth dropped open. And he said, that is amazing. And then that struck up a conversation that was a very deep conversation. And it turns out that he knew of another project down in Louisville that was a similar project, that this lady had gotten this vision to do this, which was more confirmation. And I have met 3 people in Bedford that God had given this idea to, but none of them have been able to accomplish it because so many churches don't want to work together. That was the key. This other young lady, she said, the one that was doing this with me originally is like 26, and she said, and God said I'm supposed to go to all the churches and offer them the opportunity to get involved, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start. And I said, I, by divine appointment, have been introduced to many of the pastors here in the community, and I'm friends with many of them. So you write up what God tells you to write up, and I'll help you get in there to share with them. Just share what God's got on your heart. And so many churches, and this is not faulting our hometown. This is, I mean, I travel all over the place, and I see this everywhere. The churches, yeah, I'm just going to say it. The churches want to not offend people because it's about their membership, their numbers. It's not about God. Yes, exactly. The money. It's not about God. We've replaced God in too many churches. We've replaced God with money. It's the golden calf all over again. I'm
programs,
sorry.
Not money.
Sorry.
Programs. Yeah, we do programs. I could probably talk to you another half an hour. It's a lot of fun, but we're out of time. I'm glad you helped me remember. I do now, the little coffee shop and all that, and now it's starting to come back to me. But it's so good to hear from you again. And let's not wait for Michelle to need a replacement. How about check back with us from time to time, join our chat room, and if you have time, if you want to look at this camera, we're thinking that camera has got one problem in my application, is I use it to stream video.
Yes.
Okay, here's the problem, and here's why I'm thinking maybe we should, I need to make a change. You can't charge the camera while it's streaming.
Right.
It runs on a battery. You can charge the battery, but it can't use the camera while you're charging the battery. So
and you can't use the camera while you're taking the battery out and putting a new one in.
Right. So that's a defect that was not. I guess it's just but it's a great camera. So if you want to take a look at it, maybe that camera would be in your future, because we're going to be upgrading to 4K in the distant future, not in the near future, but in the distant future, we could repurpose that money for something that would be more useful on a day-to-day basis, as opposed to sitting on the shelf for those special occasions.
Well, we will definitely have to talk about that. I have to go fishing first thing tomorrow. I have to go fishing.
Well, that's important. All right, well, go fishing, and thanks for sharing with us, and it's great to get an update. And you go fishing, enjoy your time here in Florida. We're glad you're here. Stay as long as you want. Just make sure you're broke when you leave.
I'd like to encourage your viewers to be fishers of men and women. Be fishers. That's what we were hired to do.
You got that right. Well, Deanna, thank you so much. And we've enjoyed it. Get to bed. You got to get up with crack of dawn tomorrow, right?
Yes. And have a blessed evening. Thank you.
All right. Well, folks, gosh, we could have gone another hour, and that would have been fun. That is the view. We got the camera unfrozen high atop the Eagle's Nest, the broadcast facilities here at pjnet.tv. Tomorrow is another brand new day and a brand new program. We have a real first-time guest tomorrow for sure. And foster care. What a story she's got to tell. Oh, boy. Oh, can't wait for that. You've heard a lot tonight. You've been very patient. I'm surprised you're still here. I have no choice, but you do. Whatever you've heard as God speaks to you, I would like to suggest that you ask yourself 2 questions. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And when was that? And let's just pray that we'll never be satisfied with either answer.